Wow. Okay. Thanks, everyone. I'd like to. I spoke here a couple of months ago, and we came on board in May last year. This is a deposit just south of Timmins, very similar to Canada Nickel, low grade, huge tons. And I want to give the market an update, and particularly the audience, where we are. So let's quickly look at what we've got. We have this $1 billion resource, 0.27 nickel. We also have a gold resource, which I'll get to just now because it's interesting what I want to do with that. We're in Canada. It's a critical mineral. And these are all things, when we did our DD on this project, that we quite liked about it. We've got good First Nation agreements in place. And when we came on board, we put a new board and a new management team in together, and quickly talk about that management team. We were all part of Lion Ore. We were TSX listed. We sold for $7 billion. I was the chief metallurgist for Lion Ore. Then we did Mantra. We were also TSX listed. That was the uranium project we sold for $1 billion. And then we went and built Senko, which is a gold mine in Ghana. So we've got a team here that very early stage, but we know how to develop and build mines. And I think that's important because the message I'm trying to give shareholders and potential shareholders is we've got a certain pot of money that shareholders given us, and we just want to do the right thing and do it at the right time to make sure that we go through those development stages. And I'll talk about that now because we made some announcements the last couple of weeks. These are the people we work with. They're all Canadian. We're very happy with the service we're getting, so that's good. Where we are, we're just south of Timmins. I've worked in some pretty remote places, and by no means this is not remote. And you guys obviously know about Timmins, right? I mean, it's got good infrastructure, good power, hydropower. It's a real center for mining, so we're very happy with that. And when we did our DD, that was one of the big things that we liked about this project. We're not fighting through the jungle in Ghana or the southern part of Tanzania, so that was pretty good. What have we got? Well, we've got this Boomerang nickel deposit, 1 billion ton. I'm going to get into some detail about that. And then at the top of that, when Dale drilled it, he was looking for the gold, and that's what he found. And then he stepped over the fault and he found the nickel. So this is a brand new deposit. The maiden resource actually came out last year, February. And I'm going to talk now about what work we've done with it since. So let's talk about the nickel. There's two zones to it. This is the B2 zone. Not much drilling's been done up there, and we'll talk about the drilling we've done there last year. That's the B2, and then there's a much more dense drilling in the Bardwell zone, and I'll talk about that as well. But this is a deposit. There's been over 28,000 meters drilled on it already. Flow through was raised in 22. That was all spent by mid-neck last year. So it was over $25 million spent on this deposit. We raised $11 million in July last year. And we finished off some drilling, and we'll quickly talk about that now. So in the B2 zone, what we did there, we just wanted to understand the extension of that. How big is this? And remember, this is now at the top. Just to remind you, there's the B2 there. So we went into B2, we did extension drilling. We extended that by 800 meters, 400 meters deep. Continuous, huge blocks, intersections of nickel sulfide. And we stopped. We said, that's fine. We don't need to see any more. We know we've got more nickel than we can poke a stick at there. So let's just leave it. We don't want to waste any more money. That picture you see there, that's the style of mineralization you see. I was laughing in my mind looking at the previous project, and there you get these nice blebby, huge, massive sulfide kind of. We're not like that, right? We're this disseminated, specky sulfide, but very high-grade mineral. This is millerite, hazelwoodite, pentlandite. And this is the reason why you can get these very high concentrate grades out of these deposits. The The second thing we did last year, we went to Bardwell. Remember, Bardwell's down in the bottom area, and that's now where the majority of the drilling's been done. And what we said is we wanted to bring the resource up to surface. These results were announced on Tuesday. And the long and short of it is we brought the resource up to surface. There's obviously more drilling to be done, but we're quite happy. We think this is where the pit's going to be. And now we're busy updating our entire global resource, and that'll come out in the next week. But if I was a betting man, I'd seen what I've seen out of this and the announcement. This is where the pit will be. And I think this will be something around about between 10 and 15 years, 25, 30,000 tons of nickel a year. This is the type of size that we're looking at. So at these type of grades, you're probably looking at an 80 million ton a year mill. It's a big mine, right? These are big assets. But one of the mines we built in our iron ore portfolio, Tarty Nickel, that was just shy of 13 million tons. So we know what it takes to build these type of mines. This is very interesting. This was announced, I forget my days because I just flew in on Tuesday. It was announced, I think, yesterday. But we talk about the flow sheet. And this was a big part of when we came on board. You know, we looked at this billion tons, and you've got to say to yourself, is it a billion tons of something or is it a billion tons of nothing? Because that's a big question that we had to answer for this project. We've been using Coram. Coram's the same lab that Canada Nickel used, and excellent metallurgist, Greg Lane, based out of Australia. I'm a metallurgist. So we had to spend a lot of time, you know, putting core through flow sheets and understanding how we can make this thing work. What we announced, and I spoke about this when I spoke at the previous Red Cloud and other conferences, when you have these large ore bodies, you've got to develop a geomet model, right? So what is the mineralogy? What is the geology? And what is the performance of that in your flow sheet? And this is what we've had to spend time doing. And I think it's been frustrating for people and being in nickel, and of course the share price takes a hit. But there's no way that we can develop a mine or a project if we don't understand this. And this is the basis of what we now understand. So let's quickly look at this curve. So in 2022, there was work, and it was published through an announcement. That was the metallurgical performance, the sulfur against nickel recovery. And that was done at XPS in Sudbury. So good guys did that work, and that was fine. So we looked at that and we said, we have a platform, but we need to improve on that. How can we improve that? And we did some changes. We looked at various things around milling and desliming. And what we've done, we've increased that performance. So you can see on that curve, the blue curve there, that's the 2023 work. It's important, this, because what we can do now is pinpoint the domains of the sulfur in the ore body against the nickel recovery. It's a very important step for this project. So it's fine to say we've got a billion tons of something, but what can that something do? Well, this is the question we've answered now. So this is the basis of now future drilling. This is the basis now of economics, of reserve, and that's how we look at projects. This is what we do. Before, we could never do anything until we got this. So I'm quite comfortable now that we've got something we can, and look at the regression of that. It's very good. This ore body is literally talking to you. You feed in a certain sulfur grade, you will get that recovery. That is it. And you feed in a higher grade, you will get better recoveries. But it's not so much about the nickel, it's about the sulfur. And all of these ore bodies are like that. We had to get our heads around that. And this is now where we're at a point. So I think it's quite significant, this, because now we can start to look at all of the core that we generated last year from the drilling we did at Bardwell, the drilling we've done at B2. We can now composite that based on sulfur and based on depth, and we can feed that back into this flow sheet. And that's important. Why is it important? Because then we can start to see the performance of the ore body. And then we can start to look at a scoping study, and then we can start wrapping some numbers around this thing. How much What's the revenue? What's the tons? What's this? What's that? Until this point, we could never do that. It was all back of a fag packet. Well, I think we've moved on from that. I want to mention, and it's very important, and all around the world where we've worked, this is kind of number one on our list. And when we did our DD, it was very important that we understood the relationship we had with our First Nation groups in Timmins, and they excellent. And this was a photo with myself and Carl and Rob and Ricky and Stan. And we're in Timmins. I think there's a great understanding of how mining gets done there, and you guys understand that. So, but for us coming from Australia, and we've worked in Africa and Australia, so this is something that's front and center of any project development. So it's a message I like to talk to people about, that we do have very good relationship with both of our First Nation groups on our side, and I'm very grateful for that. So I just want to talk about the gold, because remember, we've also got a 1.5 million ounce gold deposit on our property, 100% owned by us. When we came on board, we didn't have any metallurgy on this gold. So it's fine saying you've got all of this nickel, you've got all of this gold, but can you recover it? Let's understand that. Well, what we did, we went and composited 9 samples. We sent them to SGS Lakefield. We ran them through stock standard gravity bottle roll tests, and they came back and we've got 93% recovery. So, and honestly, I did nothing to it, right? I just said, don't put oxygen, just put air, run it for 36 hours, take samples every 4 hours. Let's just see what happens, right? Let's not overthink this thing, but let's understand, can we recover the gold? Because if we can't, then you have 1.5 million ounces of nothing. So, well, we recover the gold. So I look at this, and remember the last thing we did, we built a gold mine, a 240,000 ounce gold mine in Ghana that we expanded to over 5 million tons. So I look at this, and there's a CIL plant there, without a doubt. But I didn't come on to develop gold. I don't think so anyway, unless my shareholders tell me different, or it goes to 4,000 ounce and out. So here's an opportunity, and let's look at the markets. Are the markets, can I go and raise money today? I can't, and it's tough to do it, right? Our share price has been smashed. We've got money, and I'll get to that just now. But I look at this gold and I say there's an opportunity to potentially monetize this. And I think we've put a bow on this now, right? We can recover this gold. It's a good address. It's right on that Cadillac Larder Fault. I've got some of the biggest gold mines in Canada left and right of me. So I look at this and say, there's an opportunity. It's non-dilutive. It's not our core business. And I want to go and test the market. So I'm being very open about this. We've done this work purposely because we do want to see if we can monetize this and keep this nickel side of the business going. So I just wanted to mention that. That's what we're doing with the gold. We have spent some money on it, but I now want to see what we can get for that. And good luck, Let's see what happens. So let's talk about, in summary, what we spoke about in 2023. Well, we went and raised 11 million. We came on board in May. We spent a month and a half getting our heads around this thing, and we went and raised $11 million. We then did that drilling at B2, and we looked at Bardwell, and I think we've been successful at Bardwell. And we know we've got another Bardwell at B2, but we've got to pick our fight, and we've got to understand where this pit's going to be. So we're saying it's at Bardwell. Let's focus there. That's just where the majority of the drilling and the money's been spent already. So I want to leave it there, right? We've also done this MET work now, and I think I've explained to you all exactly what that means as a company. So we know when we go and target drilling in the future, and we know when we look at our economics and our reserve and our understanding, we have to look at sulfur nickel ratios. It's not just we've got nickel. I've seen that lots of times. I see these polymetallic projects. We've got nickel, copper, gold, lead, zinc. Well, good luck recovering them all, because it's not going to happen. Well, I think we had to have a we had to look at ourselves and say, well, what have we actually got? Well, I think now we've got a formula that can tell us where we drill, what we're going to get. That's important. That's what's going to make this thing work or not work. Sorry, I just want to go there. And we did the drilling at Bardwell, and then we spoke about the gold and the recoveries of gold. So all the things we did last year. So I think we've moved this project from, kind of just post-COVID, everyone's kind of, commodity prices are through the roof, and then next minute, and we've seen this before, the crash comes, but we had money. I think we've done the right work. The work we've done has been correct. So I think that's good from a project, let's say, demonstration to potential shareholders and to my shareholders as well. What are we going to do this year? Well, as it stands today, we've still got 6 million in the bank. So I know with the project activity we're going to do, we don't need to go and raise any money this year. And one of the reasons why I know that is because I'm not going to drill. I don't need to drill. What we need to do is all of that core that we generated last year is all going to be fed into the flow sheet. And we have to understand and continue to develop that curve that I showed you, right? But if I look at the regression and the trend that I'm seeing at the moment, those dots will just keep adding to that. So there'll be no drilling this year, and I've been very open about that, because if you want to spend money, put a rig on site, right? And we're not doing it. We don't need to do it. What we need to do is understand the performance of all of that core that we drilled last year into the flow sheet. So that's pretty much what we'll be doing. Based on that, we can now put together a scoping study, and we're JORC compliant, so we obviously have to make sure we've got enough M&I, and we're going through that now. In fact, the guys are running the models and the numbers now. I'm hoping to have that out before PDAC on Monday, but we'll see. We'll have to work through the weekend and see what comes out. But I had a look at some numbers last night, but yeah, that's being done. So we'll get a new mineral resource estimate out with these sulfur tables now, and we'll start to put some domains together. I've spoke about the gold. I want to package that up. I want to see if I can monetize that gold. And I think I can, and I'm going to do that this year. And that's going to help that nickel story. It's going to be non-dilutive. It's going to help us continue to develop this nickel story. And I'm sorry for those people who live in Toronto, but you're going to see me a lot more, because I've made a decision. I need to come and move here, because to try and do this in Perth, it's great. We've had lovely weather and I've played a lot of golf, but it's time to start doing some work now, right? We know we've got a boy or a girl. We've got to go and get on with life now, right? So I'm moving to Toronto and I'll be here in May. And we want to make this thing Canadian. It's a Canadian project. It's as simple as that. So you've got to be careful what you wish for sometimes. And I've been lumped with this, but I'm looking forward to it. It's exciting, and it's what we've done before. And, it's nothing different. There'll always be bumps in the road, but I think we're onto something. And I just look at what Mark and Canada Nickel have done. We're probably 2 years behind them, but geez, they've really set the bar. And being neighbours with them, I think we can take a lot of learning from what they've done. So we're in a good space. We're excited. So thank you very much.